Hi, I'm Jenny from American Hydroponics, and welcome to our monthly webinar. Here we are in our HCOE greenhouse, as we usually are during our webinars. And before we start, today's webinar is what to do when the days start getting shorter. So here we are right in the middle of September, and the days are going to start getting shorter and shorter and shorter. So we thought it would be a good time to talk about what to do in your greenhouse when the days get shorter. But before we do that, I want to just pull out something. I want you to take a look. Look at these amazing heads of lettuce. Look at the size of these. This is incredible. These are Roxy. We grew these during the summer. Now this one is almost 8 weeks old, so it's a little bit older, but amazing, amazing heads of lettuce, and you can see all of them look like that. So I just wanted to point that out because they're really beautiful heads of lettuce. So what to do when your days start getting shorter. So this is a great example. This Roxy lettuce is a great example of what happens during summertime. We're located here in Northern California, so we get some beautiful light during the summertime. And during the wintertime, you would never get a head that looks like this, for example, during the wintertime, regardless of how long you let it grow. So you'll notice wherever you are, located in the US or even around the world, depending on what your light situation looks like, right? You'll notice that in the summertime, you're just like an outside garden, your greenhouse is bursting, and a lot of that has to do with the light that comes through your greenhouse, what kind of greenhouse you have, what kind of light transmission comes through. And then in the winter time, at least here in North America, when the days get shorter, you have a couple of things to consider, and we're going to talk about those things. The two basic things to consider are day length and the moles, the type of light that comes through your greenhouse. So I think we're going to put up on the screen right now what's called a daily light integral. And what this is, you can get them all over the internet. This is for North America, and it shows you the type of light in certain areas of the US, what kind of light comes through there. So you'll see in December, again, here we are in Northern California. In December, we get the shortest amount of light possible. Our light here is about 9.5 hours in December, but in the summertime, in the middle of summer in June, right at the equinox there, we're going to get about 14 to 15 hours of light. So you can see there's a big difference there. That amount of light will slow your growth down going into those low light months. As you've seen in our greenhouse before, we do have supplemental lights. We, because this is an experimental greenhouse, we have LEDs, we have HIDs, and we have several versions of them. If you get one of our Get Growing bundles, we include lights with that, because almost anywhere you're going to need some kind of supplemental lighting going into the winter months here in North America. So we don't turn on the lights at all during the summer. Matter of fact, we're just getting to the point right about now, maybe in a few weeks, where we'll start turning on the lights and adding supplemental lights. Your plants, the leafy greens, like everything you see around me right here, need anywhere from 14 to 16 hours of light to keep their growth as constant as possible throughout the year. So during the summer, clearly, we don't need any lighting during the summer. During the winter months, when all you're getting is about 9.5 hours, something like that, then we add supplemental light to that. Now, we don't just randomly turn on and off the lights, because there's one more component to what you need when your days start getting shorter: PAR sensors. We have light sensors in here that will automatically measure and read how many moles of light have come through into your greenhouse to affect your plant growth. So there's two different things. There's the DLI, the chart that I showed you that shows just in general what's the kind of moles that are coming through the sun. But then you also have, when you're growing in a greenhouse, you need to take a look and your sensors need to tell you what kind of light transmission is coming through. So generally, leafy greens need anywhere between about 17 and 20, 15 and 19 moles of light, something like that. And so, yeah, maybe during the summertime, even with that bright intensity, all coming through no problem. Maybe during the winter time, though, your DLI might say, oh, well, you're getting 15 to 20, you should be fine, except that that light transmission coming through your greenhouse will cut down the number of moles coming into your greenhouse. So you'll need to have a light sensor in your environmental controller that'll take care of that. So there's several of them out there. AutoGrow has a great environmental controller, the Multi. Adam has a great environmental controller, Wadsworth. All of those are kind of mid-range environmental controllers for a greenhouse like this getting started that will have light sensors in them. They measure the amount of moles coming through your greenhouse to make sure that you have just the right amount for your plants. Sometimes it's rainy and you may not get really full strength. Sometimes your greenhouse might be dirty because you haven't had a chance to clean it off yet, or the glazing might be, you know, years old and might need to change that. There's lots of reasons. So even though, according to the DLI, you might have enough light coming through or enough light available, it's not all getting through into your greenhouse. So the light sensors will sense all of that, calculate it, and automatically turn on your lights and automatically turn off your lights when you don't need it. It's the greatest way for an energy conservation because you're not just on a timer flipping the lights on automatically and turning the lights off automatically. Then there is the day length, and that's another thing we need to talk about, is as your days get shorter and shorter, what do you need to do to make sure your plants will grow at a consistent rate as much as possible? So leafy greens need about 14 to 16 hours of light. So you might think, well, great, more light, more growth, let's just keep the lights on all the time. You can't do that because your plants also need a set amount of time for respiration. That is, they need to kind of shut down in that dark period and just kind of start to follow the seasons that way. So for respiration, you need to make sure that you don't keep your lights on 24 hours, but instead you give your plants about 14 to 16 hours of light. One of the things you'll also need to be careful of if you're an urban farm, for example, and you're growing in the city, or even if you're growing around other neighbors who have a larger greenhouse ranges, you'll need to be considerate of light pollution. Now, it doesn't matter whether you turn your lights on earlier in the morning and say you turn your lights on at 4 to 8. If the sun starts coming up about 7:30, you might want to get those extra hours there, or if you turn them on later in the night. That doesn't really matter. What you don't want to do is have the regular day length, say it's from 7 to 4 in the middle of winter, and then turn your lights on from midnight to 4 in the morning, right? Because that disrupts the respiration, and it disrupts that dark period those plants need. You heard me mention LEDs versus the HIDs. There is a lot of discussion about the benefits of both of those, and I'm just going to throw it out there just very generally. LEDs have a much higher upfront cost. They're much more expensive to buy the actual lights themselves, and then to replace the bulbs are very expensive with LEDs, but your operating costs are much lower and they're much more energy efficient versus the HIDs, which are much less expensive to buy the lights, but they cost more on the operating side and they take up more electricity. As to which is better, I don't think the industry is in any consensus yet because LEDs are so new, really relatively to the industry. So we have growers that use both. We really only use lighting for supplemental lighting with the idea that nothing beats the sun. Nothing replicates the sun. We use fluorescent lights for some indoor grows. We use LEDs, we use HIDs. Nothing beats the quality, the quantity, and the price point of the sun. Nothing beats it. And I think that's something that's fairly standard in the industry. However, there are times when you do need supplemental lights, and what kind of light you use all depends on what your project is and what your budget is and that. When you grow indoors using only lighting to give the plants the moles they need and the amount of light they need, it will change the taste and texture and color of your plants. Might just be personal preference. I happen to prefer plants grown under the sun. I don't care for the texture. It's a little bit thicker The color is beautiful when you grow indoors. The reds come out really vibrant red as you're looking around. They come out a really beautiful color, but the taste is a little different to me and the texture is a little different. It's my personal choice. I prefer the plants grown in the greenhouse, but that is something to consider when you're growing indoors using only lights. Then you're immune a little bit to, regardless of where you are in the world. You don't have to worry about day length or anything like that, but you will find that there is some variation in the taste, the texture, and the color of your plants. So just thought I'd throw that out there. That's not exactly related to day length, but we do get a lot of questions about people growing indoors. Hopefully that's answered a bunch of questions for you on what to do as your days get shorter. You're going to, instead of just, like I said, instead of just having a timer turn on and off your lights and thinking you're going to hit about that 14-hour range, invest in a power sensor for your environmental controller and you'll save energy and the plants will get exactly what they need. So as always, we have a deal for you. We have our final seminar of the year coming up in October. A little over a month from now. We're already more than halfway full. So if you're interested in some real hands-on learning here in our greenhouse and knowing everything you need to do to start your own hydroponic business, I would really encourage you to come to one of our seminars. They're great, people love them, and they either come away saying, absolutely I can do that, and they start their own business, or they come away saying, oh, I'm not quite ready at that point yet. So it really is a great way to test your theory as to whether you can start a hydroponic business and what you need to do. We have a special deal, it's on the screen right now. It's $695, which is $300 off. It includes, that's always for 2 people. We always recommend bringing 2 people from an organization so you can go back and kind of everybody hears something a little differently and you can bounce your remembrances and your ideas off of each other. It's $695 for 2 people, and that includes a hotel for the 2 nights that we're there. So use the promotional code that's on your screen, SEMCombo, and sign up as I would suggest as soon as you can. Like I said, we keep the classes very small so that everybody has a chance to work in the greenhouse and get a real feel for what it's like. Our next webinar coming up is October 17th, and it'll be filmed right here again in our greenhouse, and it's what to know to start a hydroponic business. All of your questions answered, right? So we've been doing this a long, long time. So we have gotten tons of questions about how to start a hydroponic business, and we have hundreds of successful hydroponic growers who have started their business in the last, even 5 to 7 years. And they are successful growers, and they have done all the research, and we have a lot of those questions for you. So be sure to sign up, register for our webinar. It's October 17th, and we hope to see you there.